He stole my scholarship, sold me to my cousin, then lied that my mom was dead for 10 years. But when I uncovered the truth, I turned every lie into evidence and made them all pay for erasing me. That's what my dad said after draining my scholarship fund, slapping me across the face and calling me the biggest disappointment he'd ever created. I stood there in shock, holding the acceptance letter I had spent my entire life dreaming about, crumpled in my hands, now worthless. My name's Rin. I'm 19. And until 3 months ago, I thought I was going to be a concert violinist in New York City. I had gotten a full-ride scholarship to one of the top conservatories in the country. I had worked for it every single day since I was 8 years old. I practiced until my fingers bled. I performed in freezing outdoor events, stuffy church halls, and sleepless competitions. I did everything right. But none of that mattered the moment my dad decided I didn't belong to myself anymore. Let me go back. I live in a quiet, freezing little town in Colorado where music is considered a hobby, not a future. My dad, Mark, is a carpenter. Solid guy on the outside. He's got that rugged mountain man charm everyone seems to eat up. My stepmom, Lisa, is the kind of woman who only smiles when someone's watching. She married my dad 3 years after my real mom passed from a car accident when I was 10. Lisa never really wanted me around. She tolerated me, pretended to care, but I was always a reminder that my dad came with baggage. But Dad? He used to be different. Or maybe I just wanted to believe he was. He used to come to every recital. He used to sit in the front row with tears in his eyes when I played the same Bach piece for the 100th time. My little prodigy, he used to call me. But the moment I got the acceptance letter from Northbridge Conservatory, everything changed. I thought he'd be proud. I thought this would finally be the moment he said, "You did it." I knew you would. Instead, he went completely silent. He folded the letter, placed it on the kitchen table, and left the room. Lisa was the one who spoke first. "New York's expensive," she said flatly. "You'll never survive out there on your own. Who's going to pay for your rent? Food? What if something happens?" I told her I had a full scholarship, that it even included housing. I had read the offer letter 1,000 times. I knew every word. But Lisa just looked at my dad, who hadn't said a thing. And then, 2 weeks later, my scholarship fund disappeared. Gone. The linked account I had set up? Emptied. The email confirming the disbursement? Forwarded to Lisa's email. The school told me the funds had been accepted under my name, transferred to a verified bank. That bank belonged to my father. I remember shaking when I confronted him. Not because I was scared of him, because I was scared of the truth. "Why would you do this?" I asked, holding the empty balance sheet. "You stole my future." That's when he said it. That horrible sentence I will never forget. "You're not going anywhere. I didn't raise you just to lose you too." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You didn't raise me, Mom did." That's when he hit me. It wasn't a hard hit, not enough to knock me over, but it was enough to silence the part of me that still believed he had ever loved me unconditionally. After that, everything moved fast. He and Lisa packed my bags that night, told me I'd be staying with family for a while, somewhere quieter, calmer. My cousin Mara lived in a town about an hour away. She had a spare room, they said. It would give me space to think. I didn't want to go, but what choice did I have? I tried contacting the school. They said since the funds had been accepted under my credentials, they couldn't offer additional assistance until the following year. So just like that, I was kicked out of my own life. Mara was sweet, at first. She picked me up with a smile and said how exciting it must be to have my whole future ahead of me. Her apartment was small, cramped. She had a cat that hated me and a job managing a small family-run coffee shop downtown. She said she'd help me get on my feet if I helped her out a little. That little turned into working 6 days a week at her shop, cleaning, making deliveries, and babysitting her neighbors' kids. All for $20 a day, if she remembered to pay me at all. My room? A mattress on the floor. My violin? In a storage closet, gathering dust. At first, I told myself it was temporary, that I just needed to keep my head down and wait for the next scholarship cycle. But then I overheard her one night. She was on the phone with someone, laughing. Yeah, her dad basically dumped her on me. Told me she's too dramatic. Poor thing still thinks she's going back to New York. Meanwhile, I've got free labor. Win-win. That was the moment something inside me broke. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. Oh, that same night, Mara came home drunk, tossing her purse onto the couch, kicking off her shoes. She looked at me with glazed-over eyes and slurred, "You should be grateful. Your dad said you were difficult, but you're not that bad. Just obedient enough." Then she leaned in, too close, and whispered, "I didn't sleep that night. Not after what Mara said. Not after the way she leaned in like she owned me, like my dad had handed me over with instructions. He said you'd try to run, said you might need reminding. That sentence echoed in my head long after she stumbled into her bedroom and slammed the door. I just stood there, frozen, arms locked to my sides, back pressed against the kitchen counter, heart pounding so loud it made my teeth vibrate. What did he tell her? And more importantly, what had he given her permission to do? The next morning, I did what I always did. I got up early. I swept the front of the coffee shop. I prepped the pastries. I smiled at customers like my life wasn't burning quietly beneath my skin. Mara waltzed in at 10:15 a.m., 20 minutes late, wearing sunglasses and a smug little smile. She complimented me in front of the regulars, told the barista I was her rock, her saving grace. Then, when no one was looking, she hissed in my ear, "Don't make me report you for stealing." I blinked. What? She smiled wider, lips barely moving. I saw a pastry go missing yesterday. You wouldn't want me to check the cameras, would you? There were no working cameras, but the accusation wasn't about theft. It was about control. She wanted to remind me that she could flip my world upside down with a few words, and that no one would believe me. I went to the break room and threw up in the sink. By that weekend, I had stopped sleeping altogether. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard my dad's voice. "You're not going anywhere." Every time I turned a corner at the shop, I half expected Mara to accuse me of something new. The worst part? I hadn't picked up my violin in almost 2 months. It sat in the closet of Mara's spare room, gathering dust in its cracked case. The strings were probably loose, the bow dry and brittle. Like me. I felt like I was rotting from the inside out. So I did the only thing I could do. I started recording everything. I'd already been keeping a written log in my journal. Dates, quotes, times. But now, with my smartwatch and my cloud drive, I started collecting video and audio. Every time Mara screamed at a customer. Every time she pocketed cash. Every time she hinted that she was owed back pay from my free stay. And then, I struck gold. One evening, Mara was on the phone with someone in the living room. I was in the hallway, out of sight, the smartwatch on my wrist recording everything. She laughed and said, "Oh, please. Of course I'm still claiming Nana's benefits. The government hasn't noticed in 3 years. I just log in once a month and click renew. Easiest money I've ever made." I clipped that audio and saved it in 3 different cloud folders. But even with evidence piling up, I still felt trapped. Because what if no one believed me? What if I went public and my dad backed her up? He'd already sold me out once. He'd called me dramatic, told Mara I was trouble. And I still didn't know what else he'd shared, what lies he'd planted. That fear kept me quiet. Until the night I came home and found Mara going through my backpack. She didn't hear me at first. She was sitting on the edge of my mattress, digging through my pockets, flipping through my journal. She didn't even look guilty. "Lose something?" I asked. She turned, startled, but only for a second. "You've been acting suspicious." "Suspicious enough for you to invade my stuff?" "You live in my house, Rin. Nothing here is private." I walked forward slowly and snatched the journal from her hands. She didn't resist. She just stood up, smoothed her shirt, and said, "Keep pushing, and I'll make one call to your dad. Let's see what he has to say about the things you've been writing." She left the room, slamming the door behind her. And that's when I broke. I sat on the floor, shaking, journal pressed to my chest like a shield. And I decided, no more hiding. They wanted to play dirty? Fine. I had enough evidence to sink them both. But it had to be timed. It had to be perfect. So I called in the only favor I had left. Jaime. Jaime was a classmate from my old high school. Quiet, brilliant, obsessed with tech. We'd sat next to each other in advanced music theory and bonded over how terrible the teacher was. I hadn't spoken to them in months, but when I sent a message saying, "Can you help me with something big?" they replied in under a minute. When and where? We met at the public library 2 towns over. I explained everything in hushed tones. No names, no locations, just events. They didn't even flinch. Jaime helped me set up encrypted backups. Install. That night, I texted my dad from Mara's porch. "Hey, just wondering, how much did she pay you to give me away?" He replied within seconds. The message haunted me. "Not enough." That's what my dad wrote back when I asked how much Mara paid him to take me in. Not, "What are you talking about?" Not, "I'd never do that." Just, "Not enough." I stared at the screen, numb, as if my heart had stopped mid-beat. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. My body just went cold. I used to think the worst thing he did was steal my future. Turns out he'd sold it. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I closed my phone, walked into Mara's living room like nothing had happened, and calmly asked her if she needed help organizing next month's invoices. She blinked in surprise, then smiled. Hook, line, and sinker. She had no idea that the girl she thought she broke had just become the most dangerous person in her life. The next week, I became everything Mara wanted me to be. Helpful, obedient, grateful. I cleaned the shop from top to bottom, voluntarily worked extra shifts, laughed at her dumb jokes. I even started calling her sis in front of customers. She loved it. Thought she'd finally trained me. What she didn't know was that every time I logged into her system to help with inventory or scheduling, I was duplicating her financial files and uploading them to a hidden drive Jaime helped me encrypt. Every receipt, every order log, every fake time card. I even found a record of tips she'd pocketed from other employees. Cash she never declared. I wasn't just collecting evidence anymore. I was building a timeline. But I needed more than files. I needed something that would shatter her carefully crafted image. So I set the trap. Mara had this group of mom friends she called her wine witches. A clique of gossipy women who thought they ruled the neighborhood. Every Friday night, they gathered at Mara's place, drinking cheap rosé and talking about people they'd stab in the back Monday morning. This Friday, I offered to set up everything. Wine, snacks, candles, soft jazz playlist. Perfect. But I also made sure the Bluetooth speaker in the corner was linked to my phone. And before I left to run errands, I queued up a playlist of audio recordings I'd stitched together from weeks of secret voice memos. At exactly 8:15 p.m., while Mara and her friends were on their second bottle, the speaker crackled and played her own voice. Rin's like a stray dog. Pitiful but useful if you feed her enough scraps. Laughter followed. Then another clip. She thinks her dad sent her here because he trusts me. Please. He said she was a burden. He begged me to take her. Silence. One final line. If she ever steps out of line, I'll just call CPS and say she hit me. Who do you think they'll believe? I don't know what was more satisfying, the sound of the wine glass shattering, or Mara screaming my name like I'd burned her house down. She called me 17 times that night. I didn't answer. Instead, I watched the group chat screenshots roll in from Danny, one of the wine witches who definitely hadn't known Mara was using her name to scam customer refunds. By morning, Mara's friend group was dead. Her social circle? Imploded. But that was just phase 1. Phase 2 came when I printed every piece of evidence I had: financial fraud, tax evasion, welfare abuse, and mailed it anonymously to the state labor board. I sent another package to her landlord. Why? Because Mara was 5 months behind on rent. Her spare room she gave me? Technically illegal under her lease terms. I made sure the letter included pictures of me sleeping on the floor and a note signed, "Concerned Neighbor." By week's end, Mara was a walking panic attack. She barely spoke to me. She'd started locking her bedroom door and checking the windows twice before bed. The cafe had lost 4 employees and 2 regular customers in a matter of days. She blamed everyone but herself. I watched her unravel with quiet satisfaction, until the unexpected happened. Saturday morning, I was organizing the back room when I heard the bell over the cafe door chime. Then Mara's voice, tight and nervous. What are you doing here? A pause, then his voice. I'm here for my daughter. My stomach dropped. I stepped out, and there he was. Mark, my father, standing in my prison like it belonged to him. He looked older than I remembered. Not physically. He was still strong, still tall, but smaller. Like someone had carved out whatever spine he used to have and left him hollow. Rin, he said, eyes glassy. We need to talk. Mara was glaring at him, arms crossed, lips curled into a sneer. You said you didn't want her. He shot her a look. I never said that. I said, she was a problem. I cut in. That's what you told her, right? He didn't answer, because he didn't have to. You're not taking her, Mara snapped. She lives here. She works here. You gave her up. Like, I stared at him like he'd just confessed to murder. In a way, maybe he had. I waited for a laugh, a cruel twist of the knife, but his face wasn't mocking. It was broken. You're lying, I said flatly. I wish I was. Let me rewind. After everything my father did, stealing my scholarship money, handing me off like I was unwanted baggage, selling me to Mara for a referral fee, he showed up out of nowhere and handed me a flash drive. Inside? Emails, old medical records, travel logs, photos. It took me an hour to go through everything. Jaime sat beside me, silent but present, watching my hands shake with every click. There she was, my mom, alive. She didn't die in a car crash. That's what I was told. What my dad told everyone. But the truth? She'd survived. Barely. But instead of bringing her home, he institutionalized her. Privately. Quietly. Paid off the doctors. Falsified a death certificate. Told me she was gone so I wouldn't ask questions. Because she wanted to take me away from him. And that didn't fit his narrative. According to the files, she tried to sue for full custody. She wanted to move us to California to be near her sister. She'd discovered that Dad had been taking money from the joint fund, money meant for my music lessons, to pay off personal gambling debts. But just weeks before the court date, she got into a car accident. The report said it was an accident. The emails suggested otherwise. One thread showed Dad messaging a man named Troy. Something about handling the situation quietly and making sure she doesn't talk again. I don't know if he caused the crash, but I know he used it. Jaime was the one who finally broke the silence. What are you going to do? I looked up, and I smiled. It was time. The final revenge wasn't just about me anymore. It was about her. The woman who tried to protect me. The woman who'd been erased, silenced, forgotten. I wouldn't let her story end in a hospital bed behind locked doors. First, I needed leverage. Real leverage. Not just over Mara, not just over my dad. Over everyone who played a part in burying the truth. I started with Mara. I sent her a text asking for a truce meeting. Said I wanted to apologize for everything and discuss a fair arrangement moving forward. She was suspicious, but greedy always beats careful. She told me to come over Sunday night. Just the two of us. No witnesses. Perfect. Before I left, I slipped the flash drive into a padded envelope and mailed it to a name I had only seen once in a court transcript. Rebecca Linwood. My mother's attorney. The one who had represented her in the custody battle. The one who mysteriously lost contact with her after the accident. Attached was a simple note. She's alive, and I can prove it. Contact me. Rin, I arrived at Mara's apartment right on time. She poured wine, smiled like none of it had ever happened. Glad to see you're finally acting like family again, she purred. I smiled back. Actually, I wanted to talk about family. She paused mid-sip. I pulled out my phone and opened a folder labeled Final Draft. I let the video play. It was her voice. Her face. Clear as day. She doesn't even know her mom's alive. Mark said to keep her quiet, and I did. Where's my check? Her face drained of color. You recorded me? Oh, that's not all. I recorded the phone call with Mark too. You know, the one where you threatened to call CPS if I didn't stay useful. You little... I've also got your payroll fraud, your government scam, and your shady landlord situation. Shall I keep going? She lunged for me. Too late. Jaime had been sitting in the hallway with his camera the entire time. Every word, every threat. Live-streamed. Privately, yes, but time-stamped, geotagged, and backed up in 3 separate places. Mara stopped mid-motion, realizing it was over. Why? She whispered. Why go this far? I stood up. Because you thought no one would believe a girl with no home, no power, no parents. I leaned closer. But you forgot something. I do have a mother, and she's about to wake up. Over the next 48 hours, everything unraveled. The footage went to the labor board. The state launched an emergency audit into Mara's business. She was arrested for multiple counts of fraud, including identity misuse and illegal housing violations. Her face was on the local news. She cried, said she was betrayed by someone she tried to help. No one bought it. But the real firestorm came from Rebecca Linwood. She did contact me. And when she saw the files, she cried. She hadn't known. After the crash, Dad blocked her access, filed a gag order claiming psychological distress on my mom's part. The hospital refused to answer her calls. But now she had proof. She moved fast. Petitions, emergency hearings, news coverage. The world was about to find out that a mother had been locked away for nearly a decade while her daughter was raised by the man. I dropped the phone. Just like that. My hands were shaking too hard to hold it. My ears were ringing. My chest felt like it had collapsed inward. He didn't just lie to me. He lied to her. To the woman who used to braid my hair before every recital. Who taught me how to hold a bow with steady fingers. Who sang me to sleep when I had fevers. He told her I was dead. Every single year. It took 3 days to get her transferred out of the private facility. Turns out, the place had been paid off to keep her isolated. Her medical chart had been altered, diagnoses exaggerated, progress notes falsified, calls accidentally dropped. Once Rebecca and the new legal team showed up with a court order and a folder of evidence, the staff folded like paper. The director resigned. 2 nurses were fired. The hospital was slapped with a formal investigation. And my dad? He went silent. He knew what was coming. The first time I saw her in person, I didn't recognize her. She looked thinner, older than I remembered, but her eyes, those soft green eyes that used to watch me with so much pride, were exactly the same. We stared at each other for a long time before either of us spoke. Then she stepped forward, placed a trembling hand on my cheek, and whispered, "They told me you were gone." "I was," I said, "but not anymore." We cried, together, for everything we lost. For the years stolen, the concerts missed, the birthdays forgotten. Then we planned. The trial began in October. The charges were stacked: fraud, falsifying legal documents, unlawful detainment, and obstruction of justice. My father showed up to court with a cheap suit and a public defender. He looked nothing like the man who once barked orders from behind a workbench or screamed that I'd betrayed him by choosing music over family. He looked small. The prosecution called me to testify. I took the stand, looked him in the eye, and told the entire courtroom what he did. How he stole my scholarship. How he sold me to Mara like I was a burden he couldn't be bothered to carry. How he lied to my mother for 10 years. Told her I was dead just to keep her quiet. He didn't even try to argue, because everything I said, I had proof. Meanwhile, Mara had already accepted a plea deal. She gave up everything: her store, her apartment, even her car, in exchange for reduced time and mandatory community service. She blamed my dad for manipulating her. Said she was just doing what he asked. Typical Mara. The final verdict came on a rainy Thursday. Guilty. The judge sentenced my father to 6 years in state prison with no chance of early release. He tried to speak. Said he was just trying to protect his family.